The meeting on regulatory reform will come to order. Madam Clerk, will you take the attendance?
Chair Carter.
Present.
Representatives Liberati.
Here.
Neely. Here. Scott. Here. Young.
Here.
Grant. Here. McFall.
Here.
Snyder.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
Mueller.
Here.
Filler.
Yes.
Wenzel. Here. Aragona.
Here.
Beerline.
Here.
Nyer.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have 14 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Approval and adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting. Need a motion. Representative Liberati makes that motion. Last week, we took testimony on Senate Bills 179 and 180 from Senator Irwin and Senator Hawk, allowing Indian tribes to enter into an agreement with the Cannabis Regulatory Agency regarding marijuana-related business. Are there any questions from the committee? We have a card not wishing to speak in support of from Kevin McKinney from the Michigan cannabis industry. I'll take a motion to report Senate Bill 179 with recommendations from Representative Grant. Representative Grant makes the motion. Madam Clerk, call the vote.
Chair Carter.
Yes.
Representatives Liberati.
Yes.
Neely.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Young. Grant.
Yes.
McFall.
Yes.
Snyder.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
Mueller.
Yes.
Filler.
Yes.
Wenzel.
Yes.
Aragona.
Yes.
Beerline.
Yep.
Nyer.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 14 yeas, 0 nays, 0 passes. Senate Bill 179 is reported with recommendation.
Next, I'll take a motion to report Senate Bill 180 with recommendation. Representative Scott makes the motion. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Chair Carter.
Yes.
Representatives Liberati.
Yes.
Neely.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Young. Grant.
Yes.
McFall.
Yes.
Snyder.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
Mueller.
Yes.
Filler.
Yes.
Wenzel.
Yes.
Aragona.
Yes.
Beerline.
Yes.
Nyer.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 14 yeas, 0 nays, 0 passes. Senate Bill 180 is reported with recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. House Bill 4865, Rep. Snyder, liquor retail sales restrictions on licensees owning and operating a motor fuel pump, modify. We took testimony on that bill last week. Rep. Snyder's here, and he'll give a brief overview of his changes in the H1 substitute. Rep. Snyder?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually, when I testified last week, I kind of testified to the sub, but there's just some brief changes that clean up other language in regards to motor fuel pump and the stock requirement that were in the statute.
Are there any questions for Representative Snyder? Representative Aragona?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Rep. Snyder, just some clarification. I was talking with a few people about this bill this weekend. And do you know, and I guess it's more their question, is there any type of like population threshold on this? For instance, municipality, you know, if a business like this exists within a municipality over a certain amount, then the rule applies. If it's under a population of another amount, then
No,
there's a
not
smaller
really.
threshold or a different threshold? Okay. I couldn't find it either, but I just wanted to ask you whether that was in there or not.
And not to my knowledge, that doesn't exist at all.
Okay.
And I think we just got a brief confirmation from the department over there with a head shake.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Okay. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Jerry Griffin from Midwest Independent Retailers Association. Not wishing to speak, neutral, Dave Martin, Liquor Control Commission. I will take a motion to adopt H1 sub for House Bill 4865. Representative McFall makes the motion. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Chair Carter.
Yes.
Representatives Liberati.
Yes.
Neely.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Young. Grant.
Yes.
McFall.
Yes.
Snyder.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
Mueller.
Yes.
Filler,
Yes.
Wenzel,
Yes.
Aragona,
Yes.
Beerline,
Yes.
Nyer.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, substitute H1 is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, I'll take a motion to report House Bill 4865 as substitute H1 with recommendation. Representative Neely makes the motion. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Chair Carter,
Yes.
Representatives Liberati,
Yes.
Neely,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Young, Grant,
Yes.
McFall,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Mueller,
Yes.
Filler,
Yes.
Wenzel,
Yes.
Aragona,
Yes.
Beerline,
Yes.
Nyer. Mr. Chair, you have 14 yeas, 0 nays, 0 passes. House Bill 4865 is reported with recommendation to substitute H1.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, we will have testimony on House Bills 4603 and 4604 from Representative Liberati. Whenever you're ready, Rep.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee, for allowing me to testify on House Bills 4603 and 4604. House Bill 4603 will grant K through 12 schools the option to use design bills for construction projects. House Bill 4604 would amend the occupational code for design build entities as Lara has recommended. Currently, the School Building Act of 1937 lacks a design build option, limiting construction methods for public schools. This makes Michigan one of the few states without this option. There are many examples of how design-build projects have been a success. The I-75 project in Metro Detroit, ahead of schedule and within budget. The Gordie Howe Bridge remains on schedule with a 2/24 completion date. Heritage Hall, which is right across the street, recently completed, is another design-build success. These bills do not mandate schools to use the design-build method. It is just another tool in their toolbox that can be used for their projects. Now I'll hand it over to Michael Livendale, who can get deeper in the weeds and answer any questions.
Thank you, Representative. Chairman, honorable members, what this bill allows is for design build to be an option with schools along with the concurrent method that they do right now that's traditional, that was incorporated really in the 1937 building code. So this is modifying a 1937 law to allow a more modern method of construction. Design build is the fastest growing method of construction in the United States right now. As Representative Liberati said, it's been used widely here in Michigan. It's just not currently allowed for schools because they have a different construction code than local units of government in the state government. So this would present an option for design build. And what design build is in a nutshell is the architects team with the construction management teams, and they work together. Thus, you now have a single point of responsibility, and it eliminates a little bit of the finger pointing that goes on in traditional construction, and it provides a more flexible, faster method of delivery. With my company and our experience, we generally are able to do school construction faster because the design phase is able to move faster. With all these experts working together, it makes for a smoother process. This law also incorporates what's called a design criteria developer. So that's an architect that would work directly with the school to help them do their own criteria development, hire the design build team, work with the design build team throughout the process. Right now, larger schools in Michigan tend to have owners reps. A lot of you know Plant Moran does this over on the east side, different companies like that. This would incorporate this so that all the schools, even the smaller schools when they were doing projects with design build teams, would have an expert on their side representing their interest. And then the design build team itself would also have a licensed Michigan architect. So in this case, you'd have two architect teams working together to ensure the proper safety, security, and success of the project. Design build has shown nationwide to be the most successful, fastest growing method because of these reasons, that it provides a more integrated point. It provides responsibility. For my company, for example, when we do school construction, we guarantee 100% no change orders. So since we're part of the design and creation of the project, we take full ownership of that responsibility of that project. So that takes the risk of construction off the shoulders of the schools and puts it on the contractor. I don't know if many of you have ever been involved with school construction, but when they run into a change order in a school, it means something has to be eliminated. If you pass a bond for $30 million, you only have $30 million. And you'll see in Michigan a lot of times gyms will get built and they won't have air conditioning. Things get left out at the very end of the project. And unfortunately, those are the things that generally affect the comfort and conditioning of the building the most. So with design build, this gives the schools an option to protect their interest, put the risk onto their construction partners, and I think have a faster, more successful method. With that, I would like to introduce Mark Titus, who's the vice president of our company, based down in Indianapolis and has over 25 years worth of construction experience, so he can tell you about both methods.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. To Representative Carter and Representative Liberati and other distinguished members of the committee, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. As Michael mentioned, I'm VP managing design build builds in Indiana. We've been in business 25 years, a little bit over $3 billion in contracts. About 95% of that is in K-12 schools. So it's a pretty established method. We hope to introduce that and actually work with K-12 schools in your state as well. Since we adopted it, we've seen greater competition in the market, lower design and construction costs, which have benefited the K-12 schools. And one example, we have a large client in Northeast Indiana that has used multiple methods. And what he is quoted, the superintendent there, has said, we were able to realize everything in our scope, without change orders. And I think Michael mentioned that. It's very important. We believe that we design it as a team. It's a very collaborative process with the engineers, the architects, and construction managers, and the client. We feel if we made a mistake, we're going to pay for that. So we offer no change orders, and we publicly bid projects as well. So we show those bids and full transparency to the owner. We call it open book pricing. But Michael mentioned it's a faster method, lower construction costs. We have performance guarantees, which most of the traditional methods do not. And there's a high focus on what we call an optimal learning environment, really an environment that actually provides the conditions for the kids to learn better. So with that, Michael mentioned the single point of contact for the entire project. It's a very cohesive team. Many times for schools, obviously we've got a very short construction period, so this allows that short timetable to actually meet the start of school each and every year. So what we were approached by other stakeholders to work with the bill sponsors on changes. So we plan to talk to them and get those changes to you well in advance of the next meeting. But thank you very much for your time and for your consideration of this design bid bill for K-12 schools in Michigan.
Real quick, before you guys leave, I need you to fill out a card with your information. And I have a question. Can you describe why projects under the traditional model are alleged often take more time and cost more money?
Because they're done in phases. Architects are hired first. They complete the entire design phase, and then the construction management team is incorporated. With design build, everybody's working together through the design phase, and it tends, according to a University of Pennsylvania study, it tends to increase the speed of that phase by about 13 to 15%.
Thank you. Any questions? Representative Wilson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a lot of architects reaching out currently saying that they are in opposition of this because they feel like the safety standards are going to be lacking if we move to this design build, if there's not more eyes on it, checks and balances. What would you say in response to that?
So the bill does mandate the criteria developer, which is a Michigan licensed architect directly in contract with the school. And that criteria developer would work with the school to develop first the criteria for the package design and the bidding, all through the bidding and then all through the construction phase, as well as the design build team would have a Michigan licensed architect. But we are working with some of the stakeholders to clean up some of that language to make sure that it is properly protected for everybody. Absolutely. The goal of this bill is to ensure that architects are able to work with contractors in a smooth fashion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We have further testimony. Wishing to speak in opposition of the bill, we have Eric Morris from HNTB, American Council of Engineering. He's on Zoom. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes. So understanding we've got quite a few folks wishing to speak, I don't want to rush you, but hit the points. Give you a few minutes.
I will keep it short and sweet. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you.
My name is Eric Morris. I am the treasurer with the Michigan Council, or the Michigan section of the American Council of Engineering Companies. I'm also a senior vice president with HNTB Corporation and a licensed professional engineer in Michigan. So first, I'd like to say that our organization supports the design build delivery method. It's a valuable tool in our owner's tool delivery box, and has been used successfully in a variety of industries around the country. Second, I want to make it clear that our organization would like to work with the bill sponsor on this legislation to address our concerns with the current bills. However, we have some concerns with the current structure of the engineer and design builder in the legislation. We believe House Bill 4603 is attempting to solve a problem that doesn't exist today. We believe that design build is allowed under current law with K through 12 schools, and it happens every day in Michigan across multiple state and local agencies and in the private sector. The current procedures for design build work well because they balance the ability for owners to move quickly, obtain fair and efficient pricing, while protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the public. I want to make it clear that literally no other state in the country allows the arrangement for design build that is proposed in House Bill 4603, where the contractor is also the engineer. We need to balance total life cycle costs and protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the occupants. These are some of the most critical responsibilities of a licensed professional engineer and architect. In this bill, the same engineer and architect would be employed by the design builder to complete the design, review the plans and specs, and oversee the construction. This creates a lack of checks and balances and is different from design build processes being used by Michigan DOT, Department of Technology Management and Budget, and even the private sector. The licensed engineer and architect being employed by the design builder introduces a conflict of interest and literally creates a scenario where there could be no licensed professional engineer or architect required under the contract with the public school. This is akin to letting the fox watch the hen house. The other bill also directly contradicts the building or the regulatory code that requires that a firm can engage in the practice of architecture, professional engineering, and professional surveying in a state if not less than 2/3 of the principals of the firm are licensees. What this does is it requires that an engineering firm think about the health, safety, and welfare and prioritize them over financial gains, and emphasizes engineering judgment and decisions in these situations. With the current bill, it exempts the design builder from this core foundational element of our engineering and architecture building code. Essentially, instead of the engineer being contracted to the design builder, which is typical in a design build arrangement, they become employees of the design builder, which puts could put undue pressure on the engineer. So those are my organization's concerns about the bill, Mr. Chair, or about the bills, Mr. Chair. Happy to take any questions or yield to the next speaker.
Do we have any questions from the committee members? Thank you for your testimony, sir.
Thank you.
Next, we have in opposition of the bill and wishing to speak, Rob Wheeler from the Michigan Society of Professional Engineers. He's also on Zoom.
Thank you. Let me start by saying thank you for allowing me to speak today on this very important topic. I'm here to ask this committee to oppose legislation laid out in House Bill 4603 and 4604.
Let me just interrupt you really quick. We can hear you,
Sure.
but we can't see you.
Okay.
If you're okay with it, we're okay with it.
I'm trying, but I'm a little technologically challenged at the moment.
No worries. Go ahead.
All right. My background, I started my career as an engineering consultant. I moved to be an engineer at the utility here in Michigan, Consumers Energy, where I have gained some perspective on design build. After working at Consumers Energy, I worked for a design build company doing solar construction, where I gathered additional perspective. And then currently I own my own consulting firm where I act as owner's engineer. I frequently interface with design build projects. My point in sharing this with the committee isn't to review my resume. My point is to share with you that I view design build from many angles, and my opinions on this topic are not without perspective and careful thought. I'm speaking to you today as a member of the Michigan Society of Professional Engineers, which is an organization whose purpose is to protect public health, safety, and welfare through our licensed services above all other things. And that includes profit. MSP is part of a design professionals coalition with architects and surveyors. Let me be clear, the design professionals here do not oppose design build as a concept, but this particular legislation represents risks, some of which we've heard about already. This legislation is a solution looking for a problem. Design build is a tool to be used to execute projects. It's commonly misunderstood that is it a cheaper and faster vehicle to execute those projects. These are typical talking points for construction companies looking to sell their services to project owners. They are incorrect. It is my experience and the experience of many others in the industry and across many market sectors that this is not the case. Some of our members through MSPE are engineers at construction companies in Michigan that build schools. When we reached out to them to ask them what their opinions were on this legislation, they clearly stated that they do not support it. Design build supporters often state that they have project data that shows their projects are executed faster and cheaper. Me and my colleagues are unconvinced of this. If you don't believe me, at the MSP annual conference last year, we had a speaker from MDOT that gave a presentation on design build projects on an interstate project near St. Joe and Benton Harbor. After the presentation was over, I asked MDOT engineers if design build in their experience was faster and or cheaper. Without hesitation, their answer was no. What design build can do is allow budgetary flexibility, shovels in the ground quicker, which is helpful. We already have the freedom to do this under the current legislation. Therefore, we do not need any adjustments to our current legislation. One of the largest risks of a design build project is the design is often being completed during construction and after the design build bid has been awarded. The financial pressures on these projects are strong, to say the least. This legislation will diminish the ability of the design professionals to withstand the financial pressures, which are often driven by the construction piece of a design build. Please note that building the project as cheaply as possible is the primary goal of the construction company. Design professionals must weigh the cost of public safety, health, and welfare, among other criteria, and with great care. These decisions should not be made at gunpoint, which is often the case. If it is the opinion of this panel that design and construction companies in Michigan are delivering projects at higher costs than other states, I would like to point out that engineers, architects, and surveyors are not the cause of this higher cost. As a small business owner, I have firsthand of this knowledge, of this information. It's not hard for me to imagine a scenario were this legislation to pass that an unassuming licensed design professional as an employee of a design build firm is pressured into making a quick decision that jeopardizes the health, safety, and welfare of the public, which in this case, I'll remind you, we're talking about a building that shelters our children. Lastly, as a citizen of Michigan, the fact that this legislation is being pushed by out-of-state interest that either doesn't understand or care about our regulatory structure or licensed professionals is very frustrating. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the public health, safety, and welfare, I ask you to reject the legislation as laid out in House Bill 4603 and 4604.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee members? No. Thank you for your testimony. Next up, we have, wishing to speak in opposition of the bill, Jeff Ferwita from AIA. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Okay. All right. Well, you asked for 10 minutes. I'm going to cut you in half, so go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jeffrey Ferwetta. I'm with Sedgwick and Ferwetta Architects. I'm the president of the company. I am the current Government Affairs Chair for the American Institute of Architects Michigan chapter. I'm formerly AIA Michigan president and formerly AIA Michigan's representative to the national board. We are here as far with AIA in conjunction with the engineers and the surveyors that have already spoken in opposition to this bill. We are very much willing to work with the bill sponsor and the people to help make this work a little bit better. We agree right now that design build is already currently in use for schools. I personally have worked with Unionville Sabewing Schools and R.C. Hendrick, construction manager, in a design build fashion to provide a successful school project in the state of Michigan. So this legislation, what it's doing, and I've got a list of everything, and I'm going to repeat pretty much what everybody said up there. What this legislation allows is a company to hire an architect, one person, an architect, and complete a design build job. That doesn't really work when you need architects, engineers, and surveyors to complete a large project, right? So we have a consortium of professionals in a design build fashion that provide a project. This would allow a contractor not to work with professionals, but to hire one architect and be able to do architecture, engineering, and land surveying, right, under the guise of design build. So there are many important aspects that an architectural team in conjunction design build work with that. We don't have anything where design build is not allowed. When it worked in the past, because what's written for House Bill 4603, where an architect and or engineer would work strictly for a construction manager or design builder, in this case, it's against the Article 20 in the current occupational code, which says 2/3 of the owners of a professional firm that provides professional services are licensed. Architects, engineers, and land surveyors go through required minimum education, minimum training, and minimum testing, which averages anywhere from 5 to 11 years to complete to become a professional. If they are hired by somebody and somebody tells them, you will do this, it kind of takes away our professional requirement for health, safety, and welfare that we basically swear to, kind of like what a doctor does, right? So there's no regulation for design builder. If you're going to build a house builder where you're not required to have a licensed architect or engineer, you have licensed builders. There is no design builder license. There's no design builder requirements. There's no design builder minimum qualifications to be a design builder. So having that entity hire an architect and just tell them what to do doesn't work. We require the people who cut and style our hair, our hairdressers, to have licenses, right? We require people, any sort of, we require lawyers to have licenses, right? So in this case, you can't have somebody work for somebody that has a license. It just doesn't work. The occupational code as it currently stands provides a check and balance system, which we've talked about, that's vital to the same health, safety, and welfare. Without independent oversight, the risk of the design builder focusing on profits and safety and quality is increased. The cheapest method isn't always the best method. Design build isn't the only way to do schools. Some people prefer it that way. We've worked that way. We've done it successfully. So design build is currently available to you in the state of Michigan. What this bill states and what 4603 is stating is a architect or engineer will be an employee of a design builder. That's against design, or 4604, the occupational code, which they're asking, it states basically at the bottom, there's one line changes at the bottom. It says you must be 2/3 owner of an architect, or a license must be professionals, and it states all this, and at the bottom, it just says now, the request is, this section does not apply to a design builder. So we've got all these rules that apply to architects and engineers, but they just don't apply to a design builder. So we'd be happy to sit down and work with them as the professionals to help work and make a good design build law that works together. Design build works in over, I think, 37 other states have other design build laws that we can look to help, but they definitely don't match what we have currently in front of us. So we do stand opposed. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you for your testimony. Not wishing to speak, opposing the bill is Damian Hill, Associated General Contractors of Michigan. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Mary Ann McMahon, School Superintendent, retired. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Pat Krieger. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Jennifer Smith, Michigan Association of School Boards. Next, we have House Bill 4048. Representative Patrick Outman allows lottery winners to remain anonymous. Whenever you're ready, Rep. Outman.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I prepared some written testimony, and then I'll open up for questions afterwards, if that's okay. Nah, I'll be brief. Again, thank you, Chair Carter, and members of the Regulatory Reform Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today regarding the proposed legislation that would provide individuals who win lottery prizes and multi-state jackpots the option to remain anonymous if they so choose to do so. I believe this legislation is not only long overdue, but it's also a common sense, bipartisan plan that addresses important concerns for Michiganders. First, I'd like to provide some background on this issue and share why I firmly believe that this bill is necessary for the safety, privacy, and overall well-being of our citizens. To start, this legislation is a reintroduction of a bill that I had the honor of sponsoring last term. It is worth noting that this bill passed the House with overwhelming bipartisan support, with a vote of 107-1. Unfortunately, despite its strong backing in the House, the bill did not advance in the Senate during the previous session. Like many things, it stalled and eventually died in the Senate, where it was not taken up for consideration in the Senate Reg Reform Committee. It's also important to note that approximately 11 states already protect the identity of winners of multi-state games, and I believe Michigan should join them in doing so. So why is this bill necessary? Well, in today's digital age, maintaining privacy and ensuring personal safety have become paramount concerns. With the advent of the internet and social media platforms, it has become incredibly easy for anyone to access personal information about individuals, including lottery winners. This heightened visibility raises the risk of fraud, harassment, and even physical harm. Requiring individuals to reveal their names when they win a lottery prize is akin to throwing meat in a shark-infested ocean. We've heard countless stories of lottery jackpot winners facing numerous challenges, sometimes tragic ones. For instance, there was a case in Florida where a violence befell a lottery winner, ultimately resulting in his death. And while this is just one example, it illustrates the real dangers associated with public disclosure. Beyond safety concerns, lottery winners who are publicly identified often become targets for solicitations and scams. What should be a time of celebration can quickly turn into a period of distress and anxiety. Now, maintaining public trust in our lottery games is essential, and while transparency is crucial, we must also consider the potential negative consequences when it comes to safety and privacy. Now, I've heard concerns about ticket sales declining, and I am aware that a portion of the proceeds go to our school aid budget, and I understand the importance of maintaining that fund. However, I do not believe that allowing winners to remain anonymous will impact ticket sales, and the data backs that up. There has been no evidence to suggest that states allowing lottery winners to remain anonymous have experienced a decline in revenue sales. In fact, many of the states that have implemented similar changes have continued to see robust lottery ticket sales. So this lack of evidence indicating declining sales in these states underscores that we can strike a balance between transparency and protecting the safety and privacy of our citizens. We can provide individuals with the option to remain anonymous without compromising the vitality of our lottery system. So in closing, I'll just reiterate that the overwhelming bipartisan support that this bill received in the past with a vote of 107-1 in the House speaks to its importance and merits. And with that, I thank you for your time, and I'm happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
Any questions from the committee? Unfortunately, I actually saw that American Greed episode where the guy won the lottery. And I think that more people would probably play the lottery if they knew everybody didn't know their business. So
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, a lot has changed, Mr. Chairman, since the advent of the lottery in the 70s. We didn't have social media. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have all the solicitations and scams. And so I think it's best for the safety of our citizens that we allow them to choose to be anonymous if they want that. And it's important to note that they can still choose to come forward and I don't know why they would do that. I certainly wouldn't do that, but that is still an option on the table if they choose to do so.
yeah, they'll find some new relatives. Thank you for your testimony. Wishing not to speak in opposition of the bill, Mike Gallagher from the Michigan Lottery. Do we have any members? Oh, great. So, with there being no further business before the House Regulatory Reform Committee, we stand adjourned.